Coming up on One Detroit, we'll preview the agenda for this year's Mackinac Policy Conference, presented by the Detroit Regional Chamber. Plus, we'll hear about plans for the City of Dearborn's 100th Memorial Day Parade. And the president of the nonprofit Life Remodeled talks about his organization's new projects and initiatives. It's all coming up next on One Detroit.
Across our Masco family of companies, our goal is to deliver better living possibilities and make positive changes in the neighborhoods where we live, work, and do business. Masco, a Michigan company since 1929.
Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Through our giving, we are committed to meeting the needs of the communities we serve statewide to help ensure a bright and thriving future for all. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
Nissan Foundation and viewers like you.
Just ahead on One Detroit, we'll talk about the significance of this year's Memorial Day Parade in Dearborn. And we'll hear what the organization Life Remodeled is doing to help improve Detroit neighborhoods. But first up, the Detroit Regional Chamber's annual Mackinac Policy Conference takes place next week on Mackinac Island. This event brings together hundreds of business, government, civic, and philanthropic leaders for conversations about Michigan's future. This year's theme is a quest for common ground. One Detroit contributor Zoe Clark of Michigan Public got a preview of this year's conference.
Sandy, Bob, thanks for being here. Sandy, tell me about what this conference means to the state of Michigan.
Well, the conference is truly unique in the nation. I mean, 1,500 of Michigan's top leaders, philanthropic leaders, academic leaders, corporate leaders, and of course our congressional delegation, our legislative leaders, all in one place for 2.5, 3 days. And it allows the kinds of conversations that you couldn't have if you're sitting in an office, because everyone's on equal footing. It doesn't matter what your title is. If you're at the conference, you're accessible and you can have these conversations. And that's why I'm so excited about the theme that our chair, Bob Riney, developed for the conference, which is a quest for common ground.
Yeah, Bob, a quest for common ground. Tell me about why this theme this year. Why now?
You know, we're at a very divisive time, and we're more caught up sometimes in the fight than what we really want to achieve. And so a quest for common ground is really to remind people that there's a goal, and that goal usually has an intersect between people that have very different views about how to move forward, and we have to work that intersect. We can't get paralyzed by differences, because then we lose. If we find our sweet spot of things we agree on, we advance.
Who do you think needs to hear that message the most right now?
You know, I think all of us need to hear that message, because when the temperature is up, it doesn't matter why the temperatures rise, but it brings out the worst in all of us. And so I think it's a collective of helping lower the temperature and role modeling a different way.
Sandy, tell me about some of the highlights.
Well, we are super excited with an incredible lineup. So one, we're going to have the former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, on our stage. We're going to have actor, humanitarian, and philanthropist Gary Sinise, and he's going to help us celebrate America's 250th birthday. We're going to have lots of conversations with a lot of former governors.
A record number.
A record number of people who had the title governor, which actually Vice President Pence was a former governor as well too. But we're going to have former Governor Granholm, former Governor Snyder, the former governor of New Hampshire, former Governor Raimondo, who is also the former Secretary of Commerce.
You know, the highlights for me are not just the names that Sandy talked about, but what they represent. And so all of these individuals are playing a role in one way or another in a quest for common ground. If you look at someone like Pete Buttigieg, he's really saying, let's have adult conversations. You know, he's not trying to silence the other side. He's saying, let's have fact-based, let's have substantive dialogue and then move forward. I want to make sure that people don't think that common ground means we just all need to work the middle. I think we need very different debates on issues. You know, the energy-centered debates and AI debates, I think, are healthy if they're the right kind of debate. They're substantive, and if those debates lead to a common action. Paralysis is a losing position. And so I want to make sure that we see, whether we're in business or whether we're expecting behaviors out of our legislature, that they know paralysis is not an acceptable place to be.
Well, speaking of paralysis, one of the themes also of the conference is what's the fix? A series of conversations looking at education, at AI. I'm interested, Sandy, about why that decision was made to sort of talk about, I think one of the things you're talking about is the house is on fire here in Michigan. What does that mean in terms of the conference this year?
Well, since the year 2000, Michigan has fallen dramatically in everything from population growth, per capita income, educational achievement. And we have found through our statewide polling with the Glenn Gariff Group that our Michigan neighbors across the state don't know that we've fallen. So we are going to ring the alarm bell, which is Michigan's house is on fire, which leads to these common ground conversations, because we need to reverse these trends. And we can only do it by finding common ground to move forward. So we're not just going to talk about problems, we're going to talk about problem solving. And the What's the Fix series, which is going to be led by our friend Devin Skillion, the former WDIV anchor. We're going to talk about data centers. We're going to talk about economic development. We're going to talk about K through 12 education reform. What is the fix for these falling numbers that we have in Michigan that frankly we just can't settle for?
We're going to also highlight what other states have done that have been in negative positions, negative rankings, to inspire people that this doesn't have to be a long journey back. It has to be a purposeful journey back, and we can get there.
So what is the main takeaway? I mean, I'm hearing common ground, but that you want after the conference to see, let's say, for the next year, folks who attended the conference, what does that work look like for them to do once they're not on the island anymore?
Well, one, we really do hope that ringing the alarm bell and saying that Michigan's house is on fire will resonate. Just ringing that alarm bell will hopefully get our leaders, all of our leaders, in a different frame of mind, saying that, okay, the state's too important. I want my kids to do well. I want my communities to do well. I have to change my approach. I have to be able to learn and listen from others and find that common ground.
I think you have to hold up a mirror. You have to ask people, how's playing for your base worked? We're 44th in education, and we've had education a whipsaw for decades now, as opposed to a long-term sustainable solution because of partisanship. And I think we have to ask ourselves, how's that working for us? If you're 44th, it's not working very well.
You have to admit that in today's political environment, the way things work is that our politicians are not rewarded for reaching for the center. Very different than when I was growing up in politics in the 80s and even the 90s. You are now rewarded for playing to your base. And what the conference does is that it puts everyone in a different frame of mind. And again, this is why we're really, ringing the alarm bell that our house is on fire. And, if you want to be a leader in Michigan, not just in the political realm, but in the business realm, in the philanthropic realm, you've got to strive for common ground. And that means, are you willing to change your mind?
I think winning companies have diverse views in their teams, but they find a way to collaborate and move it into action. That's what we need as a state and we need as a region. Let's debate, but there's a period when the debate ends, we agree on some actions, we lock in, and we work to support those actions, not to make sure that they unwind.
It can't be the perfect solution for everybody.
That's right.
But it needs to be, the Ronald Reagan line. It's like going, I'll take 80% of what I can get. I might try to go back and get the other 20 later, but I'm happy with 80 so we can move forward.
The best presentations don't raise stock prices in companies. the best actions, and the best results. And we've got to take that attitude forward. And that means compromise, collaborate, get things done, measure it, quick fixes if it's not working right, and celebrate the wins together.
Bob, Sandy, here's to a successful conference.
And you can watch our live stream coverage of the Mackinac Policy Conference. It'll be on the Detroit PBS YouTube channel and at onedetroitpbs.org, May 26th through the 28th. We'll also bring you highlights of the conference on an hour-long special airing Thursday, May 28th at 9 p.m. Let's turn now to the holiday weekend. The city of Dearborn will host its 100th Memorial Day Parade on Monday. Each year, the event attracts thousands of people. Contributor Marty Fishoff spoke with the mayor of Dearborn and the parade's grand marshal about the city's enduring tradition of honoring the nation's fallen heroes.
As communities across the state prepare to observe the Memorial Day holiday, the event has special significance for the city of Dearborn. It will be hosting the 100th anniversary of the longest-running Memorial Day parade in Michigan. With us to talk about this milestone is Mayor of Dearborn, Abdul Hammoud, and this year's parade Grand Marshal, U.S. Navy Captain Sam Serini. Mayor Hammoud, the Dearborn Parade is marking its centennial. Can you tell us why you believe this tradition has endured for 100 years and its continuing significance for the community?
I think it's endured because so many of our families are folks who have enlisted, who are currently serving, actively serving, such as Captain Sam Serini, who is a family friend. And I can't tell you how proud we are of all that he has been able to do, not only for this community, but also for this country. And lastly, I'll also add that Dearborn is a city that has sacrificed so much, and this year's centennial will be recognizing the 347 names of fallen Dearborn service members listed on our war memorial outside of our Centennial Library. We also have a yard sign project, which is trying to educate community members on these 347 service members, where they lived, where they worked, where they studied, the lives they lived prior to joining the forces. And so we are really going above and beyond and trying to educate our community. But this is a community that is filled with pride for its country, for its community, and for the service members, our men and women who have enlisted, who have given the ultimate sacrifice.
Captain Serini, you've had a long and distinguished naval career. There must be a special significance for you as Grand Marshal of a parade honoring the men and women who have served our country.
It's important to remember the Memorial Day ceremony is to pay honor to the people who have fallen in service of this country. So for someone who's serving to be able to do that, it's incredibly special. And it means a lot to me, obviously, being Lebanese, and from Dearborn. I went to McDonald's Elementary, Laurie Middle School, and then Fortson High School. Like to be able to come back in this capacity is an incredible honor.
And I can't tell you how blessed we are to have a local as our Grand Marshal. That is so meaningful, especially in our centennial. And not only just any local, but the captain is also an Arab American, a proud Muslim American. It's meaningful to demonstrate that you have diversity amongst the ranks of those who serve, of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And that's you're very uniquely set here in the city of Dearborn.
You often cited as one of the first Muslim Americans to command a naval warship. What kind of message do you think that has for both for you and the community?
What it speaks to is like there's nothing but opportunity in this country. It's incredibly powerful to have, a captain named Hussein in the United States Navy.
You probably have family along the parade route, I think, cheering you on.
Yeah, I mean, as my mother served on city council for a long time, and my older brother serves. My whole family. There's only a handful of us that migrate outside of Dearborn.
Captain Serini is not selling himself enough. And the reason I say that is he doesn't just come from any family. His mother was the first Arab American and Muslim American woman elected in this country. His brother is currently the council president for Dearborn City Council. And this is a family that has dedicated its lives to public service. And you see it now following in the next generations. And I can't tell you how proud we are of the entirety of the Serini family. Amongst them, obviously, Captain Hussein is with us today. And so, again, we're thrilled to be celebrating.
I'm the least successful one.
Yeah, I think many would argue against that.
My brother, there's been a Serini in the Dearborn City Council for the last 50 years consecutively. And it's bigger than that, like, because you don't have to wear this uniform to serve. The mayor serves, like, it's just a community that I believe that's congruent with our culture and our religion, that kind of tells you that you should consider others first before. And I love the fact that, that we're remembering the names of the people, because it's lost on people the sacrifice it takes in order to have all the freedoms we have. So it's fantastic to have the signs and to read about their lives, because it's important to remember what they gave, and unfortunately some gave all.
This is a great time for the community to come together, to memorialize with one another. And I think you're going to see dignitaries from the highest levels of the state all the way down to the local levels, all coming to this Dearborn Centennial Memorial Day Parade in recognition of the sacrifice that Dearborn has made throughout its years for this great nation.
The nonprofit organization Life Remodeled was created in 2010 with a goal of revitalizing Detroit neighborhoods. In addition to repairing homes, removing blight, and leading beautification projects, the agency has renovated and repurposed several school buildings. Now the organization is moving ahead with some new projects and a new approach to its mission. One Detroit contributor Stephen Henderson of American Black Journal got the details from the president and CEO of Life Remodeled, Diallo Smith.
This is a city where we talk about neighborhoods all the time. We talk about it being a city of neighborhoods. But so many institutions and so many people don't really treat our neighborhoods quite that way. And in many ways, I think they don't really know what that means. I really think Life Remodeled is a kind of sterling example of how you can bring meaning to that this is a city of neighborhoods and that it needs to be a city of thriving neighborhoods. So explain the model and how it works and what you guys have been doing since 2010.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And I agree. Detroit is a city of neighborhoods. And we are at our best when our neighborhoods are thriving. And for us, fundamentally, before I talk about the what we do, I always like to start with our why. And that is, we believe unequivocally that Detroiters have all the talent and all the ambition that they need, but many don't have access for opportunities to thrive.
Right.
And so our approach is ultimately about being able to remove the barriers and in many ways create bridges for those thriving opportunities. And we do that through a comprehensive long-term model called E3M. Sounds cool. But what that stands for is economic, educational, and environmental mobility.
Yeah.
So when we thought about what is it going to look like for us to restore that dignity, restore hope, but also drive some very strong metrics that represent growth, we knew, one, we had this great example of cleaning blight up in neighborhoods, right? And so we mobilized thousands of volunteers to remove blight, to remove environmental hazards, and to, quite frankly, bring city and suburb together, right, in a way that's reflective of that. So that's part of our environmental mobility profile. The reason I think that is quintessentially important, as you know, we're a city that was built for 2 million people.
Yeah.
Now, we're hovering around 665,000 right now. I take my mother, for example, on her block, both to her left and across the street are empty lots.
Yeah, yeah.
And so being able to serve and really help our neighbors and our residents be able to have a very strong aesthetic in their neighborhood is important for pride. But we also knew that there's a lot of large vacant infrastructures that are in our neighborhood. I grew up as an East Sider, and some of the schools that I used to walk by at the time that were open and thriving are now closed.
Are gone.
They're gone. And what we found when talking with community members, when those schools close, they really send a dagger to the heart of the community.
Yeah.
Right? And so what better way, we thought, than to reintegrate pride and hope than to find new purpose for those school buildings. So both on the west side and on the east side, we've repurposed 2 active school buildings that were formerly vacant to what we call opportunity hubs. So people ask, well, okay, what's an opportunity hub? Well, it is a place that really is about aggregating economic mobility by bringing the best and brightest nonprofits in the region together, putting them under one roof, and helping us work collaboratively to bring investments, resources, and services to that immediate neighborhood. And so we've been doing that on the west side since 2017, and now on the east side, we're about to open this year with the old Dominican High School, which used to be the Winans Academy of Performing Arts.
Right. Those of us who are old enough remember when that was Dominican. Yeah. The work that you guys do doesn't take place without the community being involved with it. I mean, that's kind of where you start, is you go to these communities, you get people together, you talk to them about what's going on and what they want, and then you kind of help them build, I guess, the infrastructure to be able to move the needle. You know, that's, again, a model that lots of people talk about, but you guys seem to have been able to be effective at it. What is it about what you're doing, I guess, that makes that work?
You know, it's funny, I don't think that we're doing anything more than what I would want somebody to do for me if I was living in my neighborhood. Yeah. Right? One is about establishing trust. You know, Detroiters are resilient, but Detroiters have also been through a lot, and there's been a lot of we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then things start and don't finish, and or projects that started that wasn't, when it was done, did not fit what its original intent was. Mm-hmm. And so there's some lack of trust and consternation there. And so I think recognizing that and honoring that is a big part of what we do on a continual basis. But the other part is really, to be frank, we are not the geniuses. The Mrs. Jones and the Mrs. Smiths and that have been living in their neighborhood for 50 years, the teachers who work in that community, the small business owners, the faith leaders, they know more about their neighborhood than we will ever do. So it makes sense for us to be able to tap into their genius, tap into their history, and to tap into their ambitions and the visions that they have for their neighborhood's future, and see how we can work alongside with them in making that vision a reality.
Let's talk about this new site over on the east side and the kind of realignment of the mission around it. What's going to change?
You know, it's interesting. When we first started our Durfee Innovation Society on the west side in 2017. You start something without really, you think you know what's going to happen, but you don't really know, right? And we've just been able to experience so many great success stories there, more than we ever thought. When we first moved over in that neighborhood in 2017, it had some of the highest crime rates in the city. Now it has some of the lowest crime rates. The home value of the surrounding neighborhood has increased by 36%, right? So a bunch of great things, and that made us think, you know, this is a model that can be replicated on other parts of the city.
Pick it up and drop it someplace else.
And our Eastsiders were always like, hey, when are you guys going to come and do something over here? So we had an opportunity to acquire the former Dominican High School and allowed for the community members to name it Anchor Detroit, or asked for the community members to name it, and they named it Anchor Detroit because they want for their neighborhood to represent stability and to represent a future. What's going to be different, I think, is the approach that we're taking to use our comprehensive model to cultivate what we call thriving class neighborhoods. Neighborhoods that are economically resilient, neighborhoods where people can raise their children, neighborhoods where people can build wealth, reinvest in their neighborhoods, and then ultimately find a future for their neighborhoods. And so we're really looking to scale our model by ensuring that all of the surrounding community members have a chance to really take full advantage of the resources that are in our opportunity hubs in a way that's going to make them economically, educationally, and environmentally mobile.
You know, I've had conversations with mayors and urban planners and all kinds of people who work on neighborhood revitalization, and they all kind of agree that the things you need for a neighborhood really to thrive are, you need a school, you need a grocery store,
food,
and you need jobs for people. How close are we in some of the places where you're working to actually seeing that come together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on a continuum.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to look at it that way. When we're not talking about neighborhoods and communities that reached the tipping point of disinvestment last year.
Yeah, right.
We're talking about disinvestment over decades.
Over, my lifetime, really.
You know, I remember, the neighborhood that I grew up in when I was young. It was highly populated. We had a dense population of working class families, many of them in the professional class, and for different reasons, as I'm sure you've talked about on this show, the complexion of those neighborhoods, including the one that I grew up in, changed. And so I think that the first thing to do is to really have a long-term view. This is not going to be a flash-in-the-pan type of agenda.
Yeah.
This is going to be a comprehensive, we're all in on creating change in this neighborhood position.
That'll do it for this week's show. Thank you for watching. Head to the One Detroit website for all the stories we're working on. Follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletter.
Across our Masco family of companies, our goal is to deliver better living possibilities and make positive changes in the neighborhoods where we live, work, and do business. Masco, a Michigan company since 1929.
Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit PBS.
The DTE Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit PBS. Through our giving, we are committed to meeting the needs of the communities we serve statewide to help ensure a bright and thriving future for all. Learn more at dtefoundation.com.
Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you.